Before we dive into one of the most eye-opening discoveries in human psychology, I need you to do something important. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what you're about to learn will completely transform how you see relationships, attraction, and the hidden forces that drive human connection. This isn't just another relationship video. This is about understanding the deepest layers of human psychology. Have you ever wondered why some relationships feel so intense at the beginning, but then seem to fall apart for reasons nobody can explain? Why people can be so drawn to someone, only to become completely disappointed later? Why we sometimes feel like we're dating a completely different person than the one we first met? The answer lies in one of the most powerful psychological discoveries of the 20th century, made by a man who spent his entire life studying the hidden depths of the human mind. Carl Jung was no ordinary psychologist. While others focused on symptoms and behaviors, Jung dared to explore the unconscious territories of the human psyche. What he found there was both fascinating and disturbing. He discovered that when we fall in love, we're often not falling in love with the actual person standing in front of us. Instead, we're falling in love with a projection, a psychological image that we unconsciously create and then cast onto another human being. Think about the last time you had a crush on someone. Remember that feeling of excitement? That sense that this person was somehow special, different from everyone else? Jung would tell you that what you were actually experiencing wasn't pure attraction to who they really were. You were experiencing the power of your own unconscious mind, projecting an idealized image onto them, and then falling in love with your own creation. This isn't just some abstract psychological theory. This is something that affects every single relationship you'll ever have. Jung called this process projection, and he discovered that it happens automatically, without our conscious awareness. We take parts of our own psyche, aspects of ourselves that we've either rejected or idealized, and we unconsciously see them in other people. The confident person you're attracted to might actually be carrying the projection of your own unexpressed confidence. The mysterious person who fascinates you might be reflecting your own hidden depths that you've never explored. But here's where it gets really interesting. Jung discovered that each person carries within them what he called the anima and animus. The anima is the feminine aspect that exists within every man, and the animus is the masculine aspect that exists within every woman. These aren't just abstract concepts, they're actual psychological forces that shape how we see and relate to the opposite sex. When these inner images are undeveloped or unconscious, they become the source of our most powerful projections. A man who has never explored his own emotional depth, his own capacity for nurturing and intuition, will project these qualities onto women and become either obsessed with finding the perfect feminine figure or completely disappointed when real women fail to match his unconscious fantasy. Similarly, a woman who has never developed her own inner strength, her own capacity for decisive action and leadership, will project these qualities onto men and either idealize them beyond reason or resent them for not living up to her unconscious expectations. This is why Jung emphasized something he called individuation, the lifelong process of becoming a complete, integrated human being. Individuation isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. It's about recognizing and integrating all the different aspects of your personality, including the parts you've been taught to reject or ignore. When you begin this process, something remarkable happens to your relationships. You stop projecting your unlived potential onto other people, and you start seeing them for who they actually are. But individuation is not an easy path. In fact, Jung warned that it's one of the most challenging journeys a person can undertake. It requires you to face what he called your shadow, the parts of yourself that you've rejected, denied, or hidden from consciousness. Your shadow contains not just your flaws and weaknesses, but also your untapped potential, your unexpressed creativity, and your authentic power. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow, projecting it onto others instead of integrating it into their conscious personality. Think about the people who irritate you most. The arrogant person who thinks they know everything. The manipulative person who always seems to get their way. The weak person who never stands up for themselves. Jung would suggest that these people are mirrors, reflecting back to you aspects of your own shadow that you refuse to acknowledge. The arrogance you hate in others might reflect your own unexpressed confidence. The manipulation you despise might reflect your own unused strategic intelligence. The weakness you judge might reflect your own fear of being vulnerable. This insight completely changes how you approach relationships. Instead of looking for someone to complete you, you begin the work of completing yourself. Instead of seeking validation from others, you start validating your own experience. Instead of trying to fix or change your partner, you focus on your own growth and development. This doesn't make you selfish or self-absorbed. In fact, it makes you a much better partner because you're bringing a whole, integrated person to the relationship instead of a collection of needs and projections. Jung observed that authentic love can only exist between two people who have done enough inner work to see each other clearly without the distortions of projection. This kind of love is rare because it requires both people to have faced their own shadows, integrated their own opposing aspects, and developed a genuine relationship with their own unconscious mind. But when it does happen, it creates a connection that is both deeply intimate and completely free. The process of seeing through projections can be uncomfortable and even painful. When you begin to see your partner as they really are, without the filter of your unconscious fantasies, you might discover that they're quite different from who you thought they were. They might be more human, more flawed, less perfect than your projection suggested. But they might also be more real, more authentic, more capable of genuine connection than you ever imagined. This is where many relationships either deepen into something authentic or fall apart completely. When the initial projection fades, some people become disappointed and move on to find someone new to project onto. They mistake the end of the fantasy for the end of love itself. But others recognize this as an opportunity to begin a real relationship based on mutual understanding rather than unconscious projection. Jung emphasized that this work of integration and individuation is not just personal, it's also relational. As you become more conscious of your own projections, you naturally become more skilled at recognizing when others are projecting onto you. You learn to distinguish between someone's genuine perception of you and their unconscious fantasy about who they need you to be. This awareness protects you from becoming trapped in someone else's projection, while also helping you maintain your own authentic self in relationship. One of the most powerful aspects of Jung's work is his understanding that projection isn't just something that happens in romantic relationships. We project onto our friends, our family members, our colleagues, even our enemies. The boss you hate might be carrying the projection of your own unexpressed authority. The friend you admire might be reflecting your own untapped potential. The family member who drives you crazy might be mirroring your own rejected aspects. This means that every relationship in your life is potentially a teacher, showing you something about your own unconscious mind. But you can only learn from these reflections if you're willing to look honestly at what's being reflected back to you. This requires a level of self-awareness and emotional courage that most people never develop. Jung also discovered that the process of individuation naturally affects your relationships with others. As you become more integrated and authentic, you automatically attract different kinds of people into your life. People who are still operating primarily from projection and fantasy will often feel uncomfortable around someone who has done significant inner work They sense that you can't be easily manipulated or controlled through emotional hooks and projections. On the other hand, other people who have also done inner work will recognize something familiar in you. There's a quality of presence, of groundedness, of authenticity that draws conscious people together. These relationships tend to be more honest, more direct, and more genuinely supportive because they're based on reality rather than fantasy. But Jung was careful to point out that individuation is never complete. It's a lifelong process, not a destination. Even the most conscious person will occasionally fall into projection, especially during times of stress or emotional vulnerability. The difference is that someone who has done inner work recognizes when this is happening and can correct course more quickly. This understanding brings a quality of humility and compassion to relationships. Instead of expecting perfection from yourself or your partner, you learn to work with the reality of human psychology. You understand that everyone is doing their best to navigate the complex territory of the unconscious mind, and you develop patience for the inevitable mistakes and misunderstandings that arise. Jung's insights also reveal why genuine intimacy is so challenging for most people. True intimacy requires the ability to see and be seen without the protective buffer of projection. It means showing up as you really are, with all your contradictions and complexities, and allowing your partner to do the same. This level of vulnerability is terrifying for most people because it means giving up the illusion of control that projection provides. When you project onto someone, you're essentially relating to a version of them that you've created in your own mind. This gives you a sense of familiarity and control because you're really just relating to a part of yourself. But authentic intimacy means encountering the genuine otherness of another person, accepting that they have their own inner world that you can never fully understand or control. This is both the challenge and the gift of conscious relationships. They require you to tolerate uncertainty, to embrace mystery, to love someone without fully understanding them. But in return, they offer the possibility of genuine connection, of being loved for who you actually are, rather than for the role you play in someone else's unconscious drama. The path toward conscious relationship begins with the courage to face yourself honestly. It requires developing a genuine relationship with your own unconscious mind, learning to recognize your projections, and taking responsibility for your own emotional and psychological development. This isn't work that you do once and then forget about. It's a daily practice of self-awareness and conscious choice. As you walk this path, you'll discover that relationships become less about finding the right person and more about becoming the right person. Less about being chosen and more about making conscious choices. Less about having your needs met and more about showing up authentically for whatever life brings. If this exploration of projection and authentic relationship has opened your eyes to new possibilities, I want to hear about it in the comments below. Share your thoughts, your experiences, and your insights. And if you found value in understanding how your unconscious mind shapes your relationships, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who might benefit from these insights. Remember to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the fascinating world of human psychology. Until next time, keep exploring the hidden depths of your own incredible mind. And remember that the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself.